Okay, in this lesson we're going to be looking at public buildings in Pompeii and Herculaneum. And we're just going to be looking at part one of that, which is the Basilicas, and the Fora, which is the Forum. This picture here is of the Basilica, it's a reconstruction, and this picture here is of the Forum in Pompeii. So this is just to give you an idea of the location of public buildings. Public meaning that obviously anybody in the town could access and utilize these buildings. So in the yellow you have the Civil Forum, the purple is the Via Stabiana, the red is the Via dell'Abbondanza, which is the main street, the Palestra is in green, and then you've also got the amphitheatre in orange, and in the bright yellow the Odeon Theatre, and in the orange the Triangular Forum. Public buildings, the Basilicas. The Basilica was a large rectangular building located on the southwestern edge of the Forum. It is a large, spacious building used for law courts and for large gatherings and commercial agreements. The building is not a typical Roman-style basilica with the arches as a principal support structure. Instead, it shows us that it's got Greek influence with the predominance of columns modified for Roman purposes. It's one of the largest of the public buildings in Pompeii and was originally built in the second half of the 2nd century BC. The walls are covered in first-style fresco, and there's a row of false columns on each side wall, which you can see in this picture here. So the A is the wall with the first-style frescoes and false columns. Two-storied wall decorations. B shows us the rows of Ionic columns. C is the nave. D is the podium, just over here, with the Corinthian columns, and E is forming the tribunal. F is the statue base in front of the tribunal. This is where the statue would be. So it is a rectangular shape with two rows of Ionic columns that are 11 meters high. The central area of this type of building is called a nave, and the sides are the aisles. The Pompeian basilica shows this origin, but it was probably roofed, and so its central rows of the columns supported the roof rather than marking the edges. At one end there's a portico, or the main entrance, consisting of 5 openings framed by large block pillars, then 4 steps up, and behind this is the actual entrance of 4 huge Ionic columns, to keep the division of 5 entrances. You'll see this double row of pillars and then columns on the diagrams when we look at them in a second. The walls were decorated in the first style with false Ionic half columns, which is what I showed you in the previous picture. This type of decoration is an imitation of marble slabs in Italian stucco. It also shows the Greek influence in the building, as the Romans copied Greek marble decoration within their Roman fresco medium. So this is another sort of diagram of the basilica. A is the Forum portico, B is the entrance from the Via Marina. C is the entrance from the Via de Champione, so that's just here, so different side entrances. E, we have porticos. F is the steps to the basement archives. G is the tribunal. H is the pedestal for the honorary statue, and I is the ancient well. The most widely accepted version is that the basilica was roofed because there's evidence of continued windows in the upper walls of the side aisles, and you can see that sort of here. This is again the basilica reconstructed, and you can see those windows there, and you can see the false columns here and the other 11 Doric columns that line the sides, and the various entrances that you have. So this is the entrance to the basilica today. The other end of the basilica, there's the basement room, and above it the first floor podium open on the side facing the basilica nave with 4 Corinthian columns. Although this platform podium has been considered as a tribunal for large court gatherings, the presence of a pedestal for an honorary statue immediately in front of it is puzzling. An alternative interpretation is that it was a tribunal, but that the duumviri held audiences with a smaller group rather than large crowds. So as we mentioned, the basilica Large rectangular building, southwestern edge of the Forum, large, spacious, used for law courts and large gatherings and commercial agreements. Alright, next is Herculaneum. So civic buildings and forum space are still buried in Herculaneum, despite we have some evidence of tunnels, but there's no real reliable analysis of these buildings. One building has been identified as a basilica on the basis of 2 columns, which can be very easily discernible along the edge of the excavation. The front part of this building has been excavated and contained pedestals for statues, which may have been removed to the museum and included members of an imperial family, Tiberius and Livia. Other statues have been looted and only their pedestals with inscriptions identifying the figure remain. There's an inscription that does provide some information about the presence of a basilica. It refers to the rebuilding of the basilica by proconsul Marcus Nonius Balbus, who we know is an important official at the time, and there's an erection of a statue of him. The possibility of the building being a basilica is tentative because of the sculpture found here, a chariot drawn by 4 horses, but conversely a statue of the Emperor Vespasian, and the large number of bronze and marble statues of emperors points to the possibility of maybe it being a temple to the imperial cult. In addition, a review of the statues of Marcus Nonius Balbus, originally described as coming from the theatre, has revealed that the statues were located in the basilica, lending validity to the idea that it could be a basilica. Alright, so now moving on from the basilica onto the forum. Fora is the plural version of more than one forum. So what is a forum? It's a large, very large public area of a town containing open spaces for meetings and the main public buildings, including all of the religious, political, and economic buildings. It's basically your main CBD, your hub. It's got everything in it. The Roman architect Vitruvius specified that the Roman fora should be different from the Greek agora and be rigidly proportioned for an appearance and ease of business and gladiatorial shows. His aim was to maintain a strong Roman architectural quality. However, in Pompeii, the earliest forum, the triangular forum, was renovated in Roman times in a continuation of Greek cultural influence, and even the main forum remained open rather than assuming the Roman style of a combination of buildings and open spaces with the forum proper. So the triangular forum. The diagram shows the triangular forum next to the theatres and a small Samnite palestra. The forum is porticoed around the 3 sides and has a view through the columns of the 4th side, overlooking the Sarno River. It contains a small 6th century Greek-style temple. The very small Samnite palestra is on the east side of the theatre next to the triangular forum entrance. So this was the earliest forum of Pompeii. It contains remains of 6th century Greek style, located overlooking the river Sarno. Entrance is propylae of Ionic columns, as you can see, with a portico of 95 Doric columns around its open space, except on the south side overlooking the river. These structures had been deliberately retained and rebuilt after the damage of AD 62, the earthquake. So this is the basin and pedestal of Marcellus found in the forum, and this is the interior forum space. So the main forum in Pompeii was a large area, about 620 square meters, paved in limestone, surrounded on the 3 sides by a 2-story colonnade fronting the public buildings. As a result, the only visible building from the forum itself was on the north side of the Temple of Jupiter, flanked by the triumphal arches. So in the background you can see this is the main forum here, that picture there. So here you can see some of how it would look from above, and you can see this big open space here and these temples that are sort of around. Okay, so this is a good one actually. So you've got municipal buildings. The Temple of Vespasian is here. You've got the Temple of the Lares, the Macellum, the Temple of the Capitoline Tria, the Temple of Jupiter. You have a warehouse here. The Mensa Ponderaria, where you'd weigh things. The Temple of Apollo. The Basilica is over here. The Comitium is over here. The the building of Eumakia over here, and the arches over here. So this is what is all contained within the Forum. So we looked at the Basilica. The Basilica is a part of the Forum. And obviously this is the statue basis where statues would have sat, the speaker's platform where somebody would speak, and the Forum with colonnade on three sides. And we're going to look at what these different buildings are used for. We should know what the Comitium is used for, and you know that the building of Eumakia, we're unsure as to what its use is. The Basilica are the law courts. Temples obviously going to be for religious purposes. Macellum had economic importance. So another building from above, so you can see this is from the other angle. So this is looking from, imagine flipping this. So you can see here the Macellum had economic importance, the temples of Jupiter, the warehouse, temple of Apollo on this side, the Basilica, the law courts over here, the Comitiums here, the building of Eumakia over here, temple of Vespasian, sanctuary of the Lares, and the Forum over here. This is where the statues were, and the colonnades around the edges of it. So what is it like today? Well, this is a good image to see, so you can see what it's like. There's grass there. There never used to be grass there. It was paved in limestone. It faces the Temple of Jupiter, which is there. The limestone paving has been looted, but the spaciousness is still apparent. Along the edges there are traces of the original columns which held up the roof of the portico and veranda-like structure on three sides of the open space. In the background on either side of the temple remains, you can just see the arches, which are here. Around the edge of the open space were a large number of about 40 statues. Only the pedestals remain. The open space was not accessible for vehicular traffic. There were stone blocks at the Forum end of the streets leading to the civic centre. So you couldn't get in there with a cart or anything like that. So obviously the building is around the outside of the Forum. From what you could see, they have a mixture of purposes, including religious, economic, and political buildings, and we're just going to quickly go through what they are. So economic, the Macellum, chief marketplace, shopping booths, open space, fish market, an exedra, room in open space devoted to the divine Augustus and his family. Then you've got the building of Eumakia. We're not sure specifically what it does, but it was the showroom for the fullers, who were clothes makers, dryers, is one belief. It was donated by a priestess, Eumakia. A statue of this woman stood in a niche behind the statues of the imperial families. The Basilica, next. Essentially a building for law courts, was also a place where economic exchanges and deals could be made. And the Mensa Ponderaria was a table of weights and measures where you could, beside the wall of the Temple of Apollo, you weigh things and measure, etc. Religious, a number of temples, Temple of Jupiter, Temple of Apollo, Sanctuary of the City of the Lares, and the Temple of Vespasian were all around the Forum. Political and government buildings. So on the south end of the Forum were the buildings that thought to be government offices. One was the office of the two lesser magistrates, the aediles, elected annually, who were in charge of the water supply, sanitation, markets, etc. Then the central one was the office of the chief magistrates, the duumviri, who were also elected annually but had more judicial power. The third building was the concilium, which was for the city council, for the decurions who were elected, and the comitium, which was used to vote. It's small, thought to be a voting office area. So I'll just show you that in the map. So you can see these sort of buildings here that they're referring to, those political sort of buildings. The three, one for the aediles, one for the duumviri, one for the decurion, and the comitium for voting. Herculaneum. Forum is still buried under the Resina. The Decumanus Maximus was the main road leading to it, and this has been uncovered for some of its length. Massive arched entrance has been uncovered with some columns nearby, and some tunnels reveal further columns which have been maybe labelled as a basilica, but main political, economic and religious building concentration found near the open space haven't been uncovered. And now this is to give you an idea of what they've seen so far, and that's to give you an idea of what it might look like, and this is what they think is the basilica. Alright, thank you.